Hey everyone, it's Dave, and I thought it'd be a really good idea and quite pertinent to do a video to celebrate the victories that we've had so far. And they're not small scale. I'm talking about large scale victories that we have achieved through our persistence, through our creativity and our stoicism. And this is millions, tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of people across the world harnessing this energy to start making a massive, massive difference. And it's important that we acknowledge this. That's what I want to do with this video, as well as also to just make a comment on about how important it is, how essential it is for us not to get reeled in, back into, into anger, annoyance, into deep concern and worry by anything that we see in the media or on social media or anything like that, because we really, really do need to keep the energy high now. So I'm just going to tell a bit of a story about this weekend and how normal it has been. And when you take an objective step back, it's easy to forget that many things in this country have now returned to either completely to normal or something pretty close to it. And there is very little talk of lockdowns now. So, just before I start, make sure you tune in tomorrow, because I have got an announcement to make about my book. Some really, really exciting news about the publication process about to start. So hit the notifications bell so that you won't miss the video tomorrow, the really important update that I'm going to provide tomorrow about the book. Okay, now, so yesterday, let me talk you through yesterday. I'm actually in a pretty good place at the moment overall, partly due to I'm really starting to pursue some meaning in my life. I mean, I'm channeling that through my book and through these YouTube videos that I do. Partly because I've realised that the crucial importance in not completely switching off from information, but from cutting down 99.9% of it. And I do mean that statistic, 99.9%. I just take a little look every now and again. And partly through remembering and reminding myself, I should say re-remembering, that my truth, my reality, how I'm perceiving the world is based on what I'm seeing with these eyes here and what I'm hearing with these ears. And that's what I really feel that we need to do and that people are starting to do. So I'm feeling quite in flow in my life, got some good balance going on as well. So that's how I'm feeling, which is good. So yesterday I finished the book, sent the manuscript and set all my photography for the illustrations and the submission form as well. Now that's what tomorrow's video is going to be about. I had a nice bit of breakfast with Sarah, my girlfriend, did a little bit of reading, and then I headed down to the pub to watch the Everton game. So big Everton fan. Everton are doing well this season, and they were playing Manchester United away from home, and I wasn't really expecting anything from the game at the amount of injuries that they've got, but I went down to the pub, I sat at the bar, no one wearing a mask, no track trace, no nonsense whatsoever, totally normal, exactly like it was in 2019. Now, a year ago, I thought those days would never return. I honestly did. So there it was, I sat at the bar and then my back started hurting because I was sat on the bar still. So I went and sat on the table, watched the match, and Everton played really well and they got a 1-1 draw. So they should have won the game in the last few minutes, but they didn't, but 1-1 draw. So that was great. I was on a high after that. But I was on a high even more so, I think, because as I was sat there watching the game in the pub, it was when it struck me that it's not just sitting in the pub, watching the game, watching the football, it feels like normal. Many other social situations, as well as life in general, now is reverting back to something that is more sane, that is more in keeping and in tune with how human beings are supposed to interact and socialise with each other. I talk about socialising, for example, social distancing, remember that? Remember the social distancing, obviously nobody does that anymore. I'm not seeing many masks at all. I can't remember last time I saw anyone wearing a mask in an indoor setting. You still see, I've not been to a supermarket, but I've been to a couple of pubs, restaurants. In my work, no one's wearing them, so that's great. The surveillance and the propaganda has been toned right down, apart from in health settings, which is quite interesting, isn't it? So doctors, surgeries, dentists, pharmacies, places like that are still full on New World Order. But other than those places, it's been toned right down. And then I went to work last night. And again, that was nice. I was in a good mood, you know, going out, delivering. The weather was awful, but I didn't mind. And I carried on thinking. And I was thinking and thinking. And it was then that it struck me that, do you know what? What we've done in this country as a movement, as a resistance movement, is hugely significant. You compare the position that the United Kingdom's in at the moment, or let's say England, because Wales and Scotland are they're like completely different worlds. They're different countries, obviously, but let's say they're in a different world. I've been to Scotland and Wales in the last few months, and from what I can see, completely different, or very different to how it is in more liberal England. So yes, I was thinking about how the situation in England is different to somewhere like Australia. But even in Australia now, the fight back is in progress, is in full progress. In every country around the world, every single country, there is massive non-compliance, massive resistance, huge protests. And how it seems to be playing out in the UK, or I'll say in England, is in that typically British way of, whilst I was really, really critical, and I have been, and I will continue to be actually, because we're far from done with this. At this point, far from done with it, and we're going to move on to different threats or made up threats. But whilst I've been critical of people for their ignorance and their selfishness and their insanity, as people have recaptured their sanity and their morality and started learning to think just a little bit again, it's almost like we have in this country almost reverted to type. People have had enough and they're just quietly rebelling. And you add that to the spontaneous non-compliance, to the more organised movement, and the movements within the movements, and the movements within the movements within the movements, the protest groups, all the amazing small businesses that are springing up, and the altruistic, community-based different groups that have been created, and the connections and friendships that have been formed. And that wall of tyranny is just collapsing, in my opinion. It is. Today, again, I went with Sarah and my mum and dad and my sister and her fella and their two kids. We went to a local apple orchard, and we had to walk around there. It poured down on us, but that was okay. We went around the nature reserve, and then we went back to the little cafe there for a slice of apple cake, cup of tea, and a taste of the apples. And again, it was, you would never know. You would never, ever know that the last 18 months had happened. I think now that because of our efforts in raising awareness and in providing others with social proof, we are very, very, very close now to, we have turned the tide. We have turned the tide in terms of public perception and awareness. We're very, very close now to bringing this all to an end. But there's still a long, long way to go because the whole fear-based narratives I'm detecting are moving away from the COVID and the lockdown side of things and towards fuel shortages, food shortages, and mark my words, following the November climate change conference in Glasgow, it will then move to climate change. There'll be a climate change catastrophe impending. We know what's going to come out of that conference. So, again, people need to, now they've learned to question what they've been told about the COVID situation, the need for lockdowns, etc. Question what they will be told with regard to climate change. So it's a little bit later down the line. So let's celebrate the small victories, and let's celebrate the massive victories that we've got here. The huge appetite for freedom that is starting to grow, well, it's growing. the huge resistance to tyranny and the growing awareness and ability to question from the general public. We always needed the general public on side. Now we have them, and that is amazing. People have had enough. People are taking us seriously now. People do see that a lot of what we said was right. However, we also need to remember not to let these fanatical, hysterical attempts of the media to try to lull us back into psychosis through fear-based tactics, not to let that affect us. Or not even the media, but anything at all. Now, for me, I'm switched off from the mainstream media. I don't go on social media anymore. I can't be doing with it. Like I say, I know what... I've written a book about it. I know what my take is on things. I think this society is one in need of great reflection, and one in need of a bit of a conversation with itself. I know what we're up against. I know what can happen if we don't make the right choices, and I know what can happen if we do. But that doesn't mean I still don't get annoyed by different things that I see sometimes. So I started off the video by talking about how great I'm feeling at the moment, how life's got a bit of flow to it and balance to it and equilibrium to it. So at the end of work yesterday, I went to get some petrol. I had about a quarter of a tank left. Obviously my job involves driving, so I went to go and get some petrol. Lo and behold, it was absolutely fine. Completely stocked. No limit on what you could have, so filled the tank up. Went into the shop and saw a sign behind the counter, and it said, there's no need to panic. It was something along the lines of, there's no need to panic. There's more than enough fuel, but there may be queues. However, if you are an NHS Hero, this is their exact words now, however, if you're an NHS Hero, then just arrive by the exit and a member of staff will fill up your car for you. That really, really pissed me right off. It really did. And then I thought, because just to go off on a tangent, I think history will show, actually, what's really been going on as the full truth begins to present itself over the next few months. One word, if there's one word that I would not use to describe the people working in the NHS, it's hero. There are many others that I will use for some of the individuals working within the health service. I'm not going to say them on air because this video got taken down. You're not allowed to criticise the NHS. What I'm doing is taking umbrage with this sign. And then I thought, why am I letting that annoy me? Why am I letting a sign in a petrol station with somebody's opinion on it? Because it is their opinion and they're entitled to. Whoever's typed up that sign thinks that the people working in the NHS are by default heroes. Okay. So I thought to myself, that's a classic example of allowing yourself to have your mood brought down by something external and unnecessary. It is a classic example of me giving my power away. What? To a sign, to a word, to an opinion. So let's be careful about that. Let's be careful about being quick to anger. Let's be careful about being quick to judge when we see something on social media, because a lot of the time we don't know what's real and what's not. We don't know the source of things. And let's just keep living in the moment, living in the real world, going to places, seeing people, acting normal, and getting away from, I keep saying it, from the computer screen and from this constant flow of information. So, yeah. And let's celebrate these big victories and live. We all want to be free, don't we? So let's remember, live free, get out there, go to the pub, go to church, go to your art class, whatever it is that you want to do. Go and see your friends for coffee. Go and do what you want. Do the protest and the civil disobedience, of course, let's carry on doing that. But let's also socialise and be normal and carry on building this momentum that is absolutely amazing to see into the winter. And let's make sure that the word lockdown is removed from the lexicon forever, because that's where it belongs. It belongs in obscurity. Okay? Right, let me know what you think of this video. Don't forget to subscribe. And as I say, tune in tomorrow for a really important update about the book. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.